A new development has meant the split between Corbyn and Sultana has gone nuclear, signalling a potential legal battle. A post on Twitter from your party, not Jeremy Corbyn himself, read, "Following this morning's unauthorised email to your party UK supporters, the data controller has reported the matter to the Information Commissioner's office. We will cooperate with the Information Commissioner in full. A false membership system has been unilaterally launched, data collected and payments taken. Your party UK has responsibilities to our supporters and duties under the law. These developments are a blow for everyone who has put their hope in a real alternative." Following Zarah Sultana's unilateral announcement of the launch of a new party on the 3rd of July, an agreement was reached for the Independent Alliance MPs to kickstart the founding process and deliver an open, democratic conference to found a new party. Zarah signed up to this and was welcomed into the Independent Alliance. She has not been excluded from any discussions, and everyone involved has been committed to a process rooted in inclusivity and mutual respect. The process was communicated to supporters on the 1st of August. A working group was established, and a diverse, gender-balanced group of volunteers across the country has been hard at work organising a conference, a huge undertaking on a very short timescale. As to allegations made against a named individual, Carrie Murphy is a trusted and dedicated volunteer. She has never had access to or control of any funds, which are held exclusively for the party. Neither have the other 5 independent MPs had access to or control over any funds at any stage. There is an enormous appetite to build a real alternative based on equality and peace. That is what unites us, and there is only one way we can build a party that belongs to everybody together. We have a historic opportunity to transform this country. We cannot let it go to waste. Now, this statement takes a shot at Zarah for unilateral announcement of the party. Now, many have said this was to push Jeremy Corbyn and co to move forward with the party. Now, many, of course, have taken to Twitter to express their view. Philip Pralford said this: "It is unforgivable that a bunch of London left buffoons have torpedoed your party and the possibility of a broad coalition when we are facing down fascism." Ash Sarkar then tweeted, "Team Zarah seems to have launched a unilateral membership operation where they get to keep the data. Team Jeremy has denounced it. It's difficult but not impossible to see how your party continues with both leaders. The big winner? Keir Starmer, followed by Zach Palansky." Now, Ashok Kumar, friend of the show, he says, "Zarah should never have been marginalised by Jeremy Corbyn's aide Carrie Murphy and a faction who employed every duplicitous tactic to sideline Zarah or anyone perceived as a threat to her influence. All of it proved pointless. Zarah and her husband Craig's unilateral move is both outrageous and self-defeating, effectively dooming the entire project. She could simply have stood for leader of what was shaping up to be a genuinely democratic party and probably would have won. Instead, figures who know only internal manoeuvring rather than real organising turned the process into a textbook case of ego and incompetence." I think whatever your views, everyone can agree with this. The whole your party shit show is so depressing, like we can't have anything. Yes, we are all Deirdre from Coronation Street. Now, I'm no legal expert, so I have no idea if this has legs or not, but this thread explains that Zarah could be in legal trouble. Jeremy acted out of duty. Jeremy was legally required to issue both a corrective email to supporters whose data had been used unlawfully and a public statement. Once Zarah's unauthorised email had circulated widely and she had confirmed its authenticity on social media, to suggest otherwise is insulting to Jeremy, implying he lacks agency or control over his own decisions and smearing his team. Jackie then reinforced this, and this is a quote from a show, "But he has control over his team and they've now sent out 2 emails like that. And we need it to stop. This completely misrepresents the seriousness of Jeremy's legal responsibilities as both a company director and the named leader of the Electoral Commission. Jeremy's letter was legally required to protect Peace and Justice Project Limited as the legal entity and data controller responsible for the supporter database, protect your party's registration with the Electoral Commission, which is still at the application stage, meaning no one can legally sign up members or collect membership fees yet, protect himself personally from liability under both data law and party law. Had Jeremy stayed silent, regulators could have treated the unauthorized email, portal, and solicitation of membership money as official, exposing him, Peace and Justice Project, and your party's application to serious sanctions. Now, what does confuse me a little bit is, as I understand it, your party isn't registered with the Electoral Commission. It's on its way, but not finalised. Now, our very own Callum Taylor spoke to the Electoral Commission to get some clarification, and Callum told us this. Individuals are perfectly permitted... Start that again, sorry. Individuals are perfectly permitted to gather membership information and take payment for membership of a party regardless of its registration status with the Commission. Once registration is approved, regulations and rules then apply. As of your party, it hasn't been approved, so Zarah isn't doing anything wrong. If and when it is approved, any data and monies collected would have to be stored in alignment with Electoral Commission rules. Now again, I'm not a legal expert. I don't know much about that, but I think it's important to provide people with all the information and then people can make up their minds. Now, many people have been asking, why are these things happening, right? Some are saying, why is Zarah being pushed out, if that's indeed true? Others are questioning why Zarah has taken unilateral decisions. Now, an excerpt from a Novara Media article could potentially shed some light. On one side, Corbyn's allies from the Peace and Justice Project and those who surrounded him as leader of the opposition, including Murphy, are in charge of the Your Party mailing list. On the other, Zarah's camp and a company registered as MOU Operations Limited under directors Andrew Feinstein, Jamie Driscoll, and Beth Winter, which controls Your Party finances and donor information. This was a fudged way to ensure nobody held all the power, but now has become unstuck. Driscoll denies that he, Feinstein, and Winter are part of any camp and says they have been explicitly trying to broker mediation for some weeks. Sultana's fears about being squeezed out and her unhappiness about being the sole person from a camp with voting rights, Corbyn's faction of 5 independent alliance MPs, would outweigh her significantly, seemingly prompted her unilateral action yesterday in opening the membership portal. One insider told Novara Media that Sultana allies Driscoll, Feinstein, and Winter have been told to fuck off, leading to stalemate, dysfunction, and a whole host of people who really should know better refusing to work with others. Now, also according to Novara Media, activists are looking to take over and potentially kick out both Corbyn and Sultana. Exclusive, a group of around 24 grassroots organisers has launched a surprise bid to lead the new left-wing party, provisionally called Your Party, after a public spat broke out between co-founders Zarah Sultana and Jeremy Corbyn. The group, calling itself Our Party, is drawn from the trade union, tenants union, anti-racist and pro-Palestine movements, as well as there's so much information, as well as local Your Party groups. Among them are Renters Union organiser Josh Virasamy and Palestine Solidarity organiser Janine Hurani. Our Party's petition, which is calling on members of the public to co-sign, demands the 6 independent alliance MPs, including Sultana, Corbyn, and the 4 Gaza independents, step back from the leadership and allow members to take over. The MPs got us this far, but now it's time to hand over the reins, the group said in a statement. The people should take things forward from here. A mass party is nothing until it belongs to the masses, they added. The group demands that the leadership of the party be given to a handover committee, including a trade union general secretary, a social movement lawyer, and a representative from the climate movement, whose names will be confirmed next week. We watch with frustration and disappointment with the public divisions within steering group, whose process for constructive resolution has clearly broken down, Our Party said in its statement. The opportunity to build a mass party truly of the people is quite possibly a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Far too much is at stake. We cannot waste it. Now, how successful that is, I honestly don't know, but also kicking out the 2 co-leaders who have name recognition and can pull in numbers, how would that work? Now, a report has claimed that Jeremy and Zarah are trying to repair the relationship. Diplomatic efforts are underway to resolve the dispute between Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah Sultana, Sky News understands. The co-leaders of Your Party have had a bitter falling out over the paid membership system as we reported yesterday. A source close to the pair is attempting to mediate behind the scenes, to salvage the party's future, they told Sky News. Now, both Jeremy Corbyn and Zarah Sultana have been contacted for comments. We have not had a response at the time, but a source has informed us that diplomatic efforts are underway. Now, I do sympathise with Zarah Sultana. I think a lot of people felt like the party was dragging its heels. There was nothing happening. And Zarah just wanted to sort of force the party forward. When it came to the launch of it, her saying we're going to start a new party certainly brought that out, and maybe with this too. But obviously, on reflection, whether she was forced or not, many feel that they have been betrayed with their money, and it could be a very bad move from her. Damo, I'm sorry, there's a lot of information there to go through, but I think it's important to give everything there, as much as I could find anyway, and then people can also draw their own conclusions, and so can you. But for starters, what do you make of this split?
Well, there's no shortage of information, is there? Because everything's getting aired in the public domain. It's crazy how much dirty laundry has been aired here. What do I make of the split? Well, I put out a video about this earlier, so I put a lot of my thoughts to this on my YouTube channel, which people can go and look at after this show, obviously. But it's one of those selfish, short-sighted implosions, frankly, the left's ever managed to stage. And that really is saying something, because nobody does splits quite like the left does, do they? I was part of my video earlier on. I drew attention to a YouGov poll that's come out. The Reform UK have just broken a record lead for themselves in the polls. They got an 18% lead now over, I think it's the Liberal Democrats, actually. It might be still Labour, but Labour and the Tories are both down on 16%, and 16% is the lowest figure Labour has ever recorded in its entire history. So you've got both the old parties here right now collapsing. The country is in ruins as a result of their mishandling of it, taking turns as they've done for years. And so the ground was fertile for something new. And instead of embracing that, your party are eating themselves and letting Nigel Farage run away with it, seemingly. I mean, 2029, he must be rubbing his hands together with glee at the thought of this right now. You had an organisation here which had launched, and 800,000 people had signed up to it to be informed. And on that launch day, that morning, when Zarah Sultana opened that portal, 20,000 of them reportedly signed up as full members in just a couple of hours. 20,000, I mean, that's insane. That is an insane number of people in just a morning. That's a movement waiting to be born inside 24 hours. And yet, somehow, the whole thing set fire to itself in broad daylight by that afternoon, with Corbyn's team apparently telling people to cancel the direct debits because it's all wrong, it's all fake, it's no good. Part of me wondered why on earth, if Zarah was able to launch the membership as she did, why the whole thing hadn't been launched before now, because clearly the capacity to launch a membership was already there. But to ask for people for money in the morning and by lunchtime telling them to end their direct debits, I don't think there's ever been an act of self-immolation so self-harming in living memory in a political party. I can't think of anything that compares to this, of what we've seen. It's just so bad, there aren't words for it. And although you broadly say you sympathise with Zarah, I don't think anybody comes out of this looking good. Zarah looks as if she's rushed it, looks as if she lost patience. Perhaps that's a fair point to make. Perhaps she did, but I don't know what was dragging the heels with regards to the membership behind the scenes. But pushing ahead without consensus doesn't look good, because it just looks like a broken, divided party. And by pulling back on that, Corbyn's side of thing ends up looking weak and overly cautious, and you keep scratching your head wondering, well, why are you being like that? Why don't you just launch it when people are, biting their legs off right now in the name of needing something to back, some sense of hope again, wanting to back this movement, wanting to get behind Jeremy once again because of the standing he still has in the minds of so many people in this country, especially amongst the left. So all in all, it doesn't look just chaotic. It ends up looking like a betrayal as well. And as I said, it's when Britain is really looking for a change, looking for an alternative, and thinking this would it, a lifeline there to be seized by people, and it gets destroyed within hours in a single afternoon. And, I guess people still wonder why trust is gone in politics, and then you get scenes like this.
I mean, I think, first of all, people might accuse me of being on the fence here. It's not. It's just that I'm not going to, as I said yesterday, I'm not going to be, I'm Team Corbyn, or I'm Team Zarah. First of all, I'm Team Socialist, for God's sakes. That's where I'm at. And I think there's been bad play from both sides because, again, like, I don't know. I'm basically reacting with everybody else. I don't have any inside information. I speak to people, but of course, they tell me what they can tell me, right? But Zarah, maybe she had a reason to do it. And again, I sympathize with it, with people for like the party sort of dragging its heels. But you're right. It's like sort of, dealing with people's memberships, data and money. Maybe that was just really, really wasn't well thought out. But then you get on Jeremy Corbyn's side, which is like 20,000 people signed up in a few hours. Let's just think about this for a second. The Green Party is on 75,000. Now, of course, they've added 15,000, I think, in the last couple of months, partly because of the leadership contest. That's probably the most publicised leadership contest they've ever had. Well, of course, Zach Polanski too. He's very, very exciting. He's energised the base. He's doing everything right, by the way. 75,000, but that's over 40 years. The fact that in one day, in a few hours, a new left-wing party gets 20,000 memberships, that to me is a huge wasted opportunity. And I think for the other side to come out and be like, well, this is potentially illegal, or you're doing something wrong here, rather than saying, all right, I don't think Zarah did, that wasn't correct, right? She should have consulted with all of us, but let's take that membership money and data now and say, look, now we have a system in place, and then deal with it behind closed doors. Kind of in a way when the party started, right? So Zarah unilaterally claimed, we are starting a party. Of course, I don't think there was consensus on that, and that's where you saw the leaks where Jeremy didn't know what was going on. But instead of Jeremy saying, or the team saying, there is no party, they thought, well, let's just start this thing now. And it's relatively successful. I mean, think about the first poll that came out. I know it's just one poll. 15% Labour level with the Labour Party, right? And that was with probably not the best political party opening, right? And they got that. So I'm thinking, why couldn't they do the same and say, fuck, right, this is not good, but let's deal with the 20,000 memberships, and by the end of the day, 30, 40,000, and the week 50,000 maybe. Who knows? It could be 100,000 in a matter of weeks. Let's build on that and do something from behind closed doors. But instead, they've aired their dirty laundry. I do want to ask you, though, Damo, about this sort of grassroots drive, right? This sort of third faction, I'm not really sure what to call it, but I mean, could it be successful? And even if it's successful in driving maybe the membership and the data and the apparatus in the hands of the grassroots, could it go forward without Corbyn and Sultana at the top? Like, would this be maybe a Democratic Party, but it's not as relevant because these two figures, they have a lot of pull.
They have a lot of pull, yes, but it can never be about just two people. I mean, this is the same argument we had about Corbyn back in the day. Everything was obsessed about Corbyn. It needs to have Corbyn at it. We need Corbyn to lead it. We need Corbyn as a figurehead. When we were talking about a new party to take over way back when we were hoping Corbyn was going to launch one, and it never actually happened. And we were waiting, and then is it going to come? Is it not going to come? And finally it has come, and Corbyn's there. And people have gone, yes, because it's Corbyn.
Yeah.
But it's building something around one guy. And it's not fair, really. And even if you bring Zarah Sultana into this as well, you have the two of them together, or either or of them on their own. I mean, Zarah, much younger, got a long political career ahead of her. If she can learn some patience, maybe. I don't know. We're like yourself. I don't have insider information here either. But it can't be like that. You can't have a movement. You can't have a party driven by individual personalities. So can it succeed? Yes, I'd have to say absolutely yes. Because it takes hard work, it takes determination, it takes graft. But if you've got the talent and the people there ready to drive it, determined to drive it, certainly there's enough people in this country, clearly, if you've got 20,000 join up in a couple of hours, then absolutely the appetite and the numbers are there. But you've got to have a platform. You've got to have drive to do that. The raw appetite's clearly there. I mean, 800,000 people gave their details at the beginning, 20,000 ready to pay within hours. Labour and the Tories are both on life support at 16%. You don't get clearer proof that millions are politically homeless and desperate for something new. But that energy doesn't just vanish because Jeremy and Zarah can't get their act together. If they can't get their act together, if they can't work together, then arguably the best thing that can happen is that somebody else steps in and they step back. The trouble is, as I said, Britain's obsessed with politics anyway. You're obsessed with names and faces, and the media doesn't cover movements without recognisable figureheads. And you brought the Greens up, and you brought Zach Polanski up, and it's a brilliant opportunity to segue into that, because Polanski still doesn't have mass recognition because, like every Green Party leader, he's not getting the same platform. And when people do platform him, they soon regret it when they realise just how much this guy knows his stuff and runs rings around them, frankly, because that's how much of a savvy media operator he's proven to be. He's an absolute nightmare for them. So strip Corbyn and Sultana out, for example, and okay, yes, might have a purer grassroots project, but as far as the media is concerned, the risk then is the invisibility. As much as it shouldn't be about personalities and it shouldn't be about faces and it shouldn't just be about Corbyn as a figurehead, you can't deny 20,000 people signed up because of him. And this is the problem. People, they get obsessed behind faces and people and not behind the politics behind it, not the policies. Otherwise, Reform UK's polling should be, in the detritus at the bottom of a deep, dark bog somewhere. Because the minute you start to get into what they actually stand for, and Zach Polanski proved this when he went to Clacton, of course, spoke to people there, told them a bit about what Farage was about. They quickly realised, oh, hell, what did I vote for, kind of thing. Because the research is never done. The facts aren't presented for them because the media don't get big ratings by doing that. So it's very difficult for a grassroots movement without a recognisable figure to get going, yet still that shouldn't detract from trying. I mean, maybe you get somebody that comes out of it that is absolutely fantastic, a brilliant, savvy speaker. I'm sure there are fantastic public speakers and orators and interviewees that can more than handle the way our media works, and it could get a bit of recognition. And certainly Polanski is getting a bit of that in the little bits that he's getting, and he's getting that off the podcast, which he's launched, which is doing absolutely brilliantly. But if a grassroots drive can make trust its selling point, I think they might be able to build something. But it's going to need support as well. And, when I think of support for a left-wing party, you automatically end up thinking of the trade unions, and it's getting them away from Labour and getting their leaderships shifted. It's a bit of a segue getting away from the point, so I apologise for that.
No,
but it's you're getting the union heads sorted so that they're actually backing what's actually backing ordinary people. Because at the minute you've got unions giving millions in cash to Labour for a party that's shafting their members, not helping them, which is just mad. When actually, they could get behind something new, take that money out of Labour. It's a dead project anyway. What are you throwing your money at that for anyway? Keir Starmer has functionally killed Labour, I think. Put it into something new. Back it. Give that something to run on. The media wouldn't be able to ignore that either. And it could turn this your party implosion into... It could turn it around. And, if you get an ordinary... people, or a group of people, for example, even, I don't know, a panel maybe. I mean, people have argued against Green Party dual leaders over time. We've got a single leader again now in Zach Polanski. But who knows? You can have a whole host of people come up from the grassroots, as they should be, and you would take all the big egos out of it at that point. Because there's an argument that there's a little bit of egotism going in this implosion as well. And putting power in people's hands at the end of the day is what Jeremy Corbyn has always told us, isn't it? It's not me they fear, it's you, is what he's often said to us in speeches, isn't it? So that would be relevant. And that, I think, would be very welcome. I think for many people, it's urgently needed. But if they can't get, if things can't be rectified, if Corbyn and Sultana cannot get their act together, they need to step away. Is there somebody else that can come up behind it? It sounds positive that there is a group of people here prepared to try. And at the end of the day, it's not called the struggle for nothing, isn't it? If they're prepared to take on that struggle and build something, then great. But if it just drifts without recognisable leadership or continues to let factions tear it apart with Corbyn and Sultana or without them, as the left is too often wont to do, then this is a completely wasted opportunity. And it's an opportunity of a lifetime right now, polling looking like it does right now. And this collapse would be handing the future to Reform just as much as Keir Starmer's politics today does.
Yeah, the point you made about first of all, I agree, like, politics is very personality focused. that's not a problem for the left or the right. I think that's a problem with society when it comes to attention span, and that's not our fault. That's because the media feeds you just shite slop. There's no intelligent conversations. It's here's a 30-second soundbite of a politician. We have created that, but at the same time, I do think you need recognizable leaders, and we shouldn't have a cult of leadership, which is what can happen with any faction, by the way. I don't know if Corbyn and Sultana going now would be a good idea, but maybe what could happen is, I don't know, this grassroots movement takes the power away, and then you've got Corbyn and Sultana on the sidelines campaigning for them, doing media interviews for them. Maybe they're spokespeople for them, and then a new leader could arise. Maybe that could happen. In terms of the Green Party, this kind of sounds like good news for them. Good news for Zach Polansky. But my question is, do you think potentially the Green Party has a ceiling, right? Your party under a United Corbyn Sultana leadership could potentially get to places where the Greens can't, right? So even though there is another left-wing party in absence of your party, do you think it's still a failure of the left, right? Yes, okay, if your party goes down, we've got the Greens. But do you feel like we need both? I mean, can the Greens really take on Reform and the far right all by themselves?
I think yes. I think both would be very useful, actually. As a Green, I got to say I am really angry about how this has turned out, because both parties could have supported each other in other ways. On the very day the Your Party collapsed into chaos, the Greens, as you mentioned a minute ago, saw their own membership tick upwards, although a lot of that actually happened before the implosion actually happened in the afternoon. A lot of the membership apparently came in the morning, so it wasn't actually a consequence. But it's proof that Zach Polansky is hitting the right notes. And they have, obviously, as a left-wing guy as he is, a socialist, he's been pulling the party leftwards, unapologetically talking about socialist economics, very strong on Palestine, clear on climate justice. So for disillusioned would-be Your Party supporters, the Greens are a visible alternative, arguably, right now. They're electorally viable. They already have a large party machine. Yes, you mentioned earlier it's taken them 40 years to get to 75,000 members, but it means they've got structure that Your Party hasn't got anything like at the moment. They also look united at the moment. They look very disciplined by comparison, and they don't carry the baggage of backroom chaos that's now tainting what Corbyn and Sultana are looking at. But the Green Party isn't going to simply inherit Your Party's potential. I really wanted to see both of them, because Your Party, had it been more stable, it would have drawn in a section of people that the Greens never would. The Greens brand, however left-wing the leadership now is, how much of a home for socialists it absolutely is. I would happily talk all day about how much of a welcoming place it has been for a socialist like myself. For many people, it will be environmentalists first, socialists second, in a lot of sense. Or for other people, they will be looking at the centrist sort of background of the Green Party, or the sort of leadership it's had in recent years before Polansky, and they will be distrustful of that, and they wanted Your Party. And without Your Party, or without that option of what they saw as a new Corbyn-led project, because again, figureheads and faces. Now, take your point with that. You need a visible leader, of course, but it shouldn't become, it's like, superhuman status around that. It should be more about what they stand for, not who they are in and of themselves. Too much of that was done before. It's how Corbyn was ended up being brought down after all. But, Your Party, built out of the wreckage of the Labour left, had the potential to reach into working class disaffection that the Green Party wouldn't necessarily have done so. That they would have found more difficult, especially since Zach Polansky is not getting the hearing that other leaders would. So yes, there's an argument that the Greens will benefit in that some people who would have gone to the Your Party, or whatever Your Party actually would become, or may still become, what it will actually end up being called eventually. But they're not going to naturally inherit all of that left-wing potential. They're still seen too much by too many as middle class and gradually heavy, even though Zach Polansky is a working class guy from Salford. You've got a deputy in Mottian Ali, first Muslim deputy of any major party in this country, working class Yorkshire lad, flat cap, likes to spend time on an allotment as well, as it happens. And then you've also got Rachel Millward as the other deputy, who arguably reflects a lot more of what most people might think as being the Greens. But to have all three of them as a leadership team on a level playing field, no arguments, no disagreements, all on the same page, same policy, because policy is all member-led and decided on by the membership at grassroots level. It just works, and it's cohesive, and it comes together in a way that is so unlike the left. And now that we have a left leader, we obviously need to give the Greens time to see if that lasts, and hopefully the left won't eat itself within the Green Party, because that would be a disaster as well. But it can be done. And so I would like to see the Your Party recover. Whether that has Corbyn and Sultana leading it or not, frankly, I have no skin in the game in that regard. Given how conduct has gone so far, arguably I would suggest handing over the reins to someone else might be the best option at this point. It's whether they're prepared to do that. And again, you come back to arguments of egos within the left again. And you just wondered yourself, when you think about it for any sort of length of time, are we going to go over this again and again yet? Is this just round one? And are we going to have more of this fallout yet? Or what? I don't know.
Support independent media. Support social justice that's there on social media. Thank you. Turn left.